Okay. So we're going to go over, I'm going to go over one of each part of this section to explain how to use the packet. The packet has pretty much everything we're going to have on the test. Also use all our notes, also use all the practice tests we have done to use to study. I'm going to do number one. Number one, they're asking me to give me the coordinates of each one. So A, B, C, D. So A, I went 2 left and 3 down. So it's 2, comma, -3. Remember, it's always X, comma, Y in that order when I'm talking about an ordered pair. B, I didn't move anywhere. So it's going to be 0, comma, 0. C, I went up 3 without moving left and right. So that's 0, comma, 3. And D, I went 3 right, 2 up. So it's 3, comma, 2. Remember, X is always left to right. Y is always up, down.
Isn't A -2, -3?
Oh, you're right. -2, -3. Thank you.
Why is it not -3?
X, comma, Y. I went left 2, so I should say -2 and then down 3.
With slope, it's
so-
Y over X.
Wait,
Y over
so
X for slope.
-3,
So,
dash
B is
2,
just-
right?
Whoa. 1 question at a time. No?
So it's -3 dash 2?
Wrong. It's -2 because you go
Oh, got
left,
it.
comma, -3 because you go down.
B is just origin.
Origin, so 0, comma, 0 is the origin. All right?
Isn't it -2 because you... Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I messed up. It was -2.
So the whole point is we're trying to find the actual coordinate of
In this question, I'm just asking you to give me the coordinate point.
Oh, so you have to just go, you do across first, so the x-axis or like x.
X is first, then Y.
So it's -2, comma, -3.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Next section. This one, you're going to describe the point, the location of the point. When it says describe the location, on my test, it will say, tell me what quadrant or axis is on. So for this one, it's -5, comma, 0. So this is by -2, notice, so be careful. -2, -4, -5. So it should be between -6 and -4. This is on the x-axis, okay? This is on the x-axis. While this one, number 5, is -6, comma, 2. Remember, it's up by 2, so -6 to the left, 2 up. As a reminder, what are the quadrants? The quadrant is 1, 2, 3, 4. So backwards, reverse like that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, which that case, this is in quadrant 2. So you could put the number 2 or Q2 if you want, something like that, okay? It is in quadrant 2. And the other ones, you would just continue to do that, okay? All right. 4 to 12 is just like that, so I'm going on to the next page. Go ahead.
For the first section, like for number 2, the y-axis is kind of off-center. Does that matter, or just like going off the y-axis?
For number 2, which letter?
A.
A, it went up 3, so it's -1, comma, 3. All right. Doesn't matter if it's off-center. I understand what you're saying. Doesn't matter. You follow the numbers on the number line. Yes.
On the test, would we be allowed to like label the quadrants?
You're able to do that. I will not be doing that. It will just be a 5 by 5 that's blank.
Okay.
With little grid lines, but it'll be blank basically.
Well, the axis.
You need to know the axes.
Like, will it be like a?
They'll be nice and centered in lines. Like they will always be a 5 by 5 or something like that. All right, number 1. So this section is asking which of the 2 points are on the line. So in this case, because this is confusing if you don't understand what it's asking, it's like each question is a multiple choice. So each question is a multiple choice. Which one is it? Is it A or B? In order to test, what you do is you plug it in. So for number 1, I would plug in 2, comma, 2. So 2 plus 2 equals 6. Well, 4 equals 6. Is that true? No, so it's not A. Plug in B. In this case, 5 plus 1 equals 6. Does 5 plus 1 equal 6?
Yeah.
Yeah, so B is my answer in this one. So each one is its own individual question where you check for A and B. So which one it is, you plug it in and solve.
What was the like examples or questions like this be on a test?
Probably not written this format. What I probably will give you is just, let's say X plus Y equals 6. And I would ask you, tell me yes or no, does 2, comma 2 fit in this?
You wouldn't give like a B example.
I would not give you like an A, B in that case.
Okay.
I would just give me a yes or no in that case.
Okay.
So in this case, this would be like 2 separate questions on my test if you want to think of it like that. Okay? 1 through 12 are all like that. So I'm going to move on. Number 13 to 21. 13 to 21 is asking me to solve for y. So when I ask to solve for y is another way to say isolate y. So I'll do 13 here for a little bit of space. But here, I want to isolate y or get y by itself. So in this case, I'm moving everything away from y. So this was like that last lesson we covered. I'm going to subtract x on both sides. Now x and 7 cannot interact because they're different terms. So it's just y equals negative x plus 7. This is how you would solve for y.
And you just leave it like that.
In this question, you just leave it like that.
Can we please another example of that?
Yeah.
So then on this one, though, I might ask for a follow-up. You do not have to do it on the review, but I'll ask for a follow-up. Give me the slope and the y-intercept. The slope in this case is negative 1 over 1. Because if you don't see a number in front, it's negative 1. And then the b would be 7 in this case. I'm going to do another one like number 18, okay? Let me make this small over here. So
Number 18 looks harder because it actually has
a number on y, yes. So for this one, number 18, I have 4x plus 2y equals 6. 4x plus 2y equals 6. So my goal is to still move the 4x to the other side, so minus 4x on both sides. So 2y equals negative 4x plus 6. Again, the negative 4x and the 6 cannot interact. They have different last names. They don't like each other. So what we're going to do is now I'm going to divide the 2 from the y, because it's 2 times y. To get 2 away from it, I have to divide. So I'm going to divide by 2. I have to divide everybody by 2. I have to distribute that division by 2. So my final setup will be y equals negative 2x, because negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2,
Wait, but I thought you.
plus 3.
Oh, doesn't matter.
Yeah. But when I ask you for the slope, so this will be done for the review question. This is all they're asking you. If I would follow up on the test, is give me the slope and the y-intercept. The slope would be negative 2 over 1. And the y-intercept would be just a positive 3. I don't ask you to go past 21, so you don't have to care about 22 to 27. We're going to go to the next page. Any questions on this before I move on?
What's the slope for 18?
18, negative 2 over 1. I just turned it into a fraction to make it useful when you graph it.
How do you do number 22?
We don't need to do that. On the top of the page, it says stop at 21, so you stop at 21. All right, 3.3. Identify the x and y intercept. Remember, the x-intercept is where it hits the x-axis, and the y-intercept is where it hits the y-axis. So the x-axis is over here. It hits it at positive 5. So my x-intercept is 5, 0. That is my x-intercept, or x-int to be short. While over here, this is where it hits my y-axis. It happens to be also 5. I'm going to write that as 0, 5. That's my y-intercept. So you tell me where it hits the x-axis, and you tell me where it hits the y-axis. That's what I mean by identifying the x-intercept and y-intercept. Up to 6 is the same kind of concept, so we're going to go down to 7. 7 is asking me from an equation, tell me what the x-intercept and y-intercept is. So from an equation, I'm going to have, let's do number 7 here, and I'll do another one after. Let's do x plus y equals 9. I'm technically doing 2 things, so I'm going to split this up. I'm going to find the x-intercept, and I'm going to find the y-intercept. If you notice earlier, at the x-intercept, y was 0. And at the y-intercept, x is 0. So we could do the same concept. When the x is the intercept, I just want the x number, which means I want y to disappear. I only want x left over. So that means on the x-intercept, I make y equals 0. Because I only want x's, so I'm getting rid of the y's.
If it says
While on the
y,
y-intercept, go ahead.
it says find y-intercept, you do x equals 0.
Good. When it's the y-intercept, I want to get the x or the x away because I'm looking for just the y. So it's x equals 0.
Why do you put them on different sides?
They're two separate things you're doing, so I'll just put it on two separate sides.
Like, why are you putting on the y line thing? You're putting x, and then the x you're putting y.
Again, if I'm looking for the x-intercept, I want the y to disappear because I just want the x, right? To make the y disappear, the best way is to make it 0. And if I'm looking for the y-intercept, I'm making the x disappear. So to make the x disappear, I make x equals 0. It's just how you do for each one.
So which one, if you're looking for the x-intercept, you turn x into 0?
No, x-intercept, you turn y into 0 because you want x left over. So then, if I turn y into 0, it's going to be x plus 0 equals 9. Well, that's plus 0. X equals 9. So my x-intercept is 9, 0. While over here, my y-intercept, I'm making x 0. So 0 plus y equals 9. Well, 0 doesn't do anything. So y equals 9. There's going to be a little slot on the page that says x-intercept with a little line where you fill it in. So then it's going to be 0, 9. So when it's just x and y, pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I'm going to do another one with numbers with it. Let's do number 12. I'm going to use a blank page for number 12, okay? So I have space. So 2x plus 5y equals 14. So same thing. I'm looking for an x-intercept and a y-intercept. So if I want the x-intercept, I make y equals 0. And if I want the y-intercept, I make x equals 0. So on the left side, y equals 0. 2x plus 5 times 0 equals 14. But anything times 0 completely disappears. So it's just 2x equals 14. X equals 7. Because I have to divide 2 on both sides to get x by itself. Which means my x-intercept is 7, 0. While on the right side, I'm going to do the y-intercept. So 2 times 0 plus 5y equals 14. 2 and 0 disappear because 0 just erases it from existence. 5y equals 14. Divided by 5 on both sides. Y is going to be, if you put it in your calculator, 2.8. You could also leave it as 14 over 5 if you want to leave it as a fraction. Both are okay. But your y-intercept is 0, 2.8. Or you could say 0, 14 over 5. I don't care which way you do it. All right. Let's look at number 25. 25, our x-intercept is 2. If my x-intercept is 2, that means I have a point at 2, 0. My y-intercept is 1. Because I have a point at y-intercept 1, that must mean it's at 0, 1. Because I know those coordinate points, I go 2 right, 0 up and down, and my y-intercept's 1 up, 0 left and right, and I just connect the dots. Very straightforward. Just put the dots and graph it.
I take a picture
Of what?
of the map, like before that.
What?
I took a picture before the process, so like I can resort back to it.
Hannah, I'm literally recording this. You don't.
Literally recording.
Yeah,
No. Oops.
it's okay. It's just immortalize what you just said, so don't sweat it.
I'll
It's okay. All right, 3.4. Slope. All right. This one popped up here. Oh, here it is.
It just says 1 through 27. Don't those?
On the back is the continue.
Oh.
All right. Number 1. Tell me if the slope is positive, negative, 0, or undefined. When quickly looking at the line, a positive slope goes up and right. A negative slope goes down and right. A 0 slope is a flat line. And an undefined is a vertical line. So if it matches this kind of shape, it should match the type of answer here. So number 1, it's going, when you go right, it's going down. So since it's going downstairs as you go right, this is a negative slope. Number 2, it's very hard to see. I make sure it's very clear on my test, but your line is here with the little arrows. You can kind of see it. I think that's supposed to be the line. Oh no, it's this line actually. My bad. Oh my god, that's horrible to see. That being said, I will make sure it's clear on the test. But it's this vertical line right here. A vertical line is undefined. You could just write UND. Okay?
Which side is paper in?
No, this is your review.
The next one positive.
Next one would be positive, okay?
Cross-cycle from?
Yes. And I'm recording this, so if you have questions, you at least could go back to it. And maybe that.
So on the test, it'll be easier to like the line will be.
It'll be nice and clean, and because I'm going to draw it myself, so it's nice and clean. All right, number 7. We're going to go to 7. Plot the points and draw a line through them. Tell me if the slope is positive, negative, 0, undefined. So I'm going to do 1, 0. So 1 to the right, 0 up and down. And 5, 3. So 5 right, 3 up. Because it's going up as I go right, it is positive. Okay. Again, this is the visual aspect of slope, okay? The next, so on the back of this page is the next part of the questions. So the back of this page, it should be like a 3.4 with a white box. Yes, go ahead.
So since the B plot is at 1, wouldn't we have to move right? Wouldn't it be at 6 instead of at 5? We can move 5 right.
Number 7?
Yeah.
This is a coordinate point.
Oh.
So you start from the origin. If it was a slope, you would. Like if I gave you y equals mx plus b, you would do that. All right. Number 13. So this is on the exact back of the page. So don't go to the next like actual paper. It's on the back of the page. Find the slope that passes through this line. The equation for the slope, you need to know this for the test. I'm not telling you this on the test. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So, when given the picture, you can use the formula. So I'm going to call this one x1, y1, and I'll call this one x2, y2. If you reverse it, you still will get the right answer. If you reversed it and call this one group 1 and this one group 2, you will still get the right answer. So for 13, y1 or y2 is 0 minus y1, which is 3, over x2, which is negative 3, minus x1, which is 0. Yours will just be like reversed.
No, I did it that way, but wouldn't it be 3 minus 0?
Depending on which one you called negative or positive, or which one you call group 1. Yeah. Well, for things that need work, like finding slope is something you need to show you. Well, I'll show you. There's 2 ways on this type of question. There's 2 ways you can see it. One, you show the work by doing the formula, which means your slope is positive 1, or 1 over 1 if you want to do that. Another way you could do it, if you have the picture, which is why on the picture one you might not need to show work, is you remember when we learned this, you could actually count the rise, which is 3 up, over the run, which is 3 to the right. So 3 over 3 simplifies to 1. So if you have the picture, you could also count them. But if you're just the numbers, you have to use the formula, okay? Number 19 is a situation where you just have the numbers. So we got to do the formula. I'm going to call this one x1, y1, x2, y2. So 7 minus 4 over 3 minus 0. Happens to be 3 over 3 again, which reduces down to 1. Just happens to be again. Very important, though, one of these questions probably have this situation. If you get a situation where it's 0 over some number, I'll call it A, 0 over some number, that means it will be overall a 0 slope. But if you get some number over 0 as your slope, that will be undefined. Very important. If you get a 0 on top, you're going to get a 0 overall. If you get a 0 on bottom, though, you can't divide anything by 0. So that's undefined. I'm sure one of these questions causes that, so you could check it out when you practice. Let's go to 3.5.
Is this like what we just did with the moving up?
Kind of.
Okay.
So for 3.5, 1 through 18, for this one, identify the slope and the y-intercept. This one, they put the arrows here to make it a little bit easier. I won't be putting the arrows. You would just have to get the dots. So in this one, I have to find the slope and the y-intercept. Remember, the slope is the m, the y-intercept is the b, and the equation overall is y equals mx plus b. So my m is how much my slope is. Again, you could use the 2-point formula. In this one, since it's a graph, and they even put the arrows for me, I could just count. It went
Wait, how do you know where to start?
2 up. You need 2 dots. So you should always start at the y-intercept.
Oh, right. I think that was-
And then 1 right. So my slope is 2 over 1, which if I simplify is just 2. That's my m. And I can do that by counting. My b is where it hits the y-axis. So you know this is combining the slope part with the intercept part into one question. So my b is where it hits the x or y-axis, which is 1. So to write the equation, it is simply y equals 2x plus 1. For number 2, my slope is, I'm going 2 up and 3 to the right. So 2 and 3. Oh, they're showing the numbers actually. Yeah, 2 and 3. So my slope is 2 because I rose up 2 over 3 because I ran 3. That's my slope.
Is the intercept 3?
And my intercept is where it hits the y-axis, which in this case is again
Oh,
1.
I thought where you land.
No, it's where you start.
Oh.
So then, your final answer, y equals 2 over 3 x plus 1. Okay. Number 7, you have to identify the slope. So I'm kind of doing the reverse. I told you to find the slope and y-intercept, make the equation. Now I give you the equation, break it down to the slope and the y-intercept. For number 7, it should be clear the slope is always with the x. So in this case, the slope here is 3, so m equals 3. And my y-intercept is the number by itself. We call that a constant. So that's 4, a constant that's by itself. Pretty easy until we get to 12. 12 is not written into y equals mx plus b yet. So we're going to change it into that. So this uses a previous skill from another page, right? All the skills start working together for that final part of the y equals mx plus b. So what would I do to get the negative 4x? Hmm?
Y.
You want y by itself, so you're moving everyone else. I am going to plus or add 4x to both sides.
So it's E.
No, you can't combine them. Why can't you combine them?
Because they're not a common.
Can't combine them.
Good, because they have different terms, different last names. They don't like each other like that. So then is y equals 4x plus 4. Hey, when it looks like this, I know what to do. My m is 4, and my b is 4. And you could change it to a fraction 4/1. If you write just 4, I'm okay with that. Those are equal. All right. Number 13, y equals x plus 5. For in this case, I want to identify my slope, which is 1/1. I want to identify my b, which is positive 5. So I start off on my starting point.
There is no positive.
The starting point is at the y-axis of 5. Remember, start on the y-axis. Typically, someone always makes the mistake and starts on the x. Don't forget, start on the y. And then, when you graph your points, you're going to go up 1, right 1. This is up and right. What's the opposite of up and right?
Down and left.
Good, down and left. So we do both, if it fits. If it doesn't fit, we only do one of them. So from 5, we go up 1, right 1. So I would put a dot there. And then from 5 again, I'm going to go down and left. From there, I have my 2 points, or at least 3 points, and connect my dots. One I want to talk about is number 18.
We do 14.
I'm going to do number 18. 18, here, my m is 6/1, because there's a whole number 6. My b in this case, God bless you, I don't see anything. So it's, I'm adding nothing, so I'm at 0. So my starting point is at 0. My slope is up 6, right 1. And then the opposite, down and left. The down and left one won't fit, so I'm only going to graph the up and right one. So up 6, right 1. Can't fit the other one, so I'll just connect the dots from here.
Wait, for the test, are you gonna do it like there's like the middle part of the line is gonna be numbered, like for number 4,
For number 4,
14?
14. What middle part?
Because when you do 7, you have to put it like in the middle, and then you have to move down.
No, your grids will always be the same. Either a 5x5 or a 10x10, depending on what I have to use. Depending on how big your line is or something like that. All right. 3.6. Direct variation. To tell something is a direct variation, it should be y equals kx. Huh?
How long is this test gonna be? Like, is it like only a few of each? Like,
A few of each thing, yeah. There's a lot of things, actually, yeah.
yeah, that's why.
It's a big test. It's one of the harder tests because graphing's hard for people.
Oh, those are the harder ones. That makes me feel better.
At least I think so. Yeah, you can use your calculator. You bought the calculator, you can use it. So y equals kx. That's a direct variation. Notice there is no plus, no minus to the k's. So there's 2 ways to tell something's a direct variation. One, if it passes through the origin. If it passes through the origin, then yes, it's a direct variation. Or, if you have the formula, see there is no plus or minus going on. In here, there's no plus or minus going on, so yes, it is a direct variation. And if it is a direct variation, give me the constant, that k value for constant. I don't know why you use k when constant starts with c, but that's a different question. But either way, it is just the slope of your equation. So in this case,
Doesn't
It's
K
the
just
number-
mean slope?
what's up?
Isn't K just like number?
K is literally the same thing as slope.
Oh.
So it's the K is 2. So the answer is 2
Why is it 2?
because it's the slope. And if you don't realize it's 2, you could always just count. 2 up, 1 right. That's 2 over 1. All right, number 2. Problem is there's a plus 3. Another problem, it doesn't pass the origin.
It's a no.
So this is a no.
Does it have to be either or both?
It's either or. It's yes or no.
No, like does it have to pass through the axis and have positive or negative, or it just has to pass? Like,
If it's a no, then that means there's a plus something and it's not passing to the origin.
so it needs
Well,
to
if it's a
have
yes-
no.
Yeah, it has to be both. I understand what you're saying. Yes, yes. All right, number 4 I want to talk about. Number 4 is 2y equals 6x. Looks like it passes the origin. And in this equation, there's no plus or minus, so it looks like a direct variation. But the constant has to be y equals kx, which means y has to be by itself. How would I make y by itself in this one? Good. I'm going to divide both sides by 2. So I end up getting y equals 3x. So my constant in this case is 3. Remember, you want that y by itself to make your life easier.
For 3 though, it has a negative.
So what is that number in front?
Plus
If you don't see a number, what is it in front of the variable?
1.
A negative 1.
But
Oh,
it
it's-
still passes through the axis.
Yeah, so it's definitely a direct variation, and your constant in that one is negative 1.
But I thought it can't have negative or plus. Like it can't have
Mhm.
a plus sign or minus sign.
That does not have a plus sign. That's a times negative 1. That's not minus 1. If it was minus 1, that would be different. And then graphing a direct variation, very easy. Wait a second. The y-intercept's what when it's a direct variation?
It's
I know it has to pass the origin. So then, this is just my slope. My slope is 4 over 1. So starting here, I go up 4, right 1. I also do the reverse. Down 4, left 1.
so it's always gonna be 0.
If it's a direct variation, it should be 0, 0. Which means it's kind of easier, right, than slope y equals mx plus b. There's no b part to it. It's just 0, 0. Just change it to a slope. It's a capital 4. Or capital. Is a, what is that? Whole number 4. Whole number
Is there a
4.
lowercase form?
I don't know. All right. Hey, that's my video. Use this to help you.
Wait, that's all.